everyone, my name is Derek, and for about 3 years I worked as a late-night delivery driver for a small pizza shop in Ohio. I usually took the closing shifts because the tips were better after midnight, and things were normally pretty quiet. But there's one delivery I made in 2021 that I still think about way too often. It was close to 1 a.m. when an order came into a neighborhood on the outskirts of town. The address was unfamiliar, but the GPS placed it at the end of a street with only a few houses. When I pulled in, the first thing I noticed was that the house was completely dark. No porch light, no indoor light leaking through the blinds, nothing. But I saw a silhouette standing near the window on the second floor, just standing still. I called the customer like I always do. No answer. I texted them. Still nothing. After about a minute, the porch light suddenly flicked on. It startled me because it was the only light on the property. The silhouette in the window was gone. I walked up to the door, holding the pizza bag. When I knocked, the door creaked open a few inches on its own. I called out, "Hello, your order's here." No one responded. I pushed lightly, and the door opened just enough for me to see a long hallway. At the end of it was a man, extremely tall, lanky, wearing a grey hoodie with the hood up. He stood perfectly still, facing the wall like he didn't want me to see his face. I said, "Sir, you ordered." Before I could finish, his head slowly turned over his shoulder, not his body, just his head. The motion was stiff, unnatural. His eyes looked wide, like he hadn't blinked in minutes. In a low voice he said, "Come inside. I need help, just for a second." Nope, no chance. I placed the pizza on the floor, backed away, and said he could take it. He didn't move. He just kept staring at me, head twisted halfway around. Then something else happened that froze my blood. Behind him, deeper in the hallway, I saw a second figure, another man. But he was crouched low to the ground, like he was waiting for something or someone. I said, "Enjoy your night," turned around, and walked fast to my car. The moment I shut my door, the porch light turned off again. Everything went dark. I drove straight to the police station. They took the report, but didn't sound like they cared. 2 days later, the address was removed from the delivery app entirely. My manager told me the house was supposed to be vacant, abandoned for more than a year. So whoever, or whatever was waiting in that hallway, they weren't supposed to be there. And they definitely weren't waiting for pizza.
Alyssa picked up an order and drove to an apartment complex. It was late. The parking lot was huge, and the lighting was terrible. As she pulled in, she saw a man standing alone near the entrance. She didn't think much of it at first. He probably lived there. But then, before she even had a chance to put her car in park, he started walking directly toward her. He came right up to her driver's side window and started tapping on the glass, just a light, rhythmic tap with one finger. He didn't smile. He didn't say a word. Just tapped. Alyssa, trying to stay professional, rolled her window down just a crack. "Hi. I'm here with a delivery. Do you live in Building C?" she asked. The man didn't answer. He just kept tapping, his eyes fixed on her. It was incredibly unsettling. Just then, her phone rang. It was the customer. "Hey, I'm waiting outside my door," the woman said. That single phone call confirmed Alyssa's growing fear. This man was not her customer. He had no reason to be at her car. The situation was escalating, and she knew she had to get out of there. But the food was in the back seat. She had to get out of the car to complete the delivery. Taking a deep breath, Alyssa got out to grab the food bag. As soon as she did, the man moved in, closing the distance between them. He stood so close she could feel his presence, almost like he was trying to block her path, to prevent her from leaving. She looked at his eyes, and what she saw scared her more than anything. They weren't angry or aggressive, they were completely empty, vacant, like he wasn't fully present in reality. "You need to back up," Alyssa said, her voice firm, trying to hide the tremor of fear. He didn't move. He just stood there, a silent, imposing figure in the dimly lit parking lot. Suddenly, a door to one of the apartments creaked open, and the customer waved at her. The moment the man saw the witness, he flinched and took a step back, almost as if he'd been snapped out of a trance. He clearly didn't want anyone else to see what was happening. Alyssa practically ran to the customer's door and handed her the food. The woman leaned in and whispered, "Is he bothering you? He's been out there for hours, just standing around." A cold chill shot down Alyssa's spine. This wasn't a random encounter. He'd been waiting for what? Or for whom? When she spun around to look back at the parking lot, the man was gone. He had vanished as quickly as he appeared. She didn't waste a second. She rushed back to her car, locked the doors, and peeled out of the parking lot. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. As she drove away, her eyes were glued to her mirrors. And then she saw it. Headlights. A car was behind her. And as it got a little closer, she recognized the shape of the vehicle, the same one she'd noticed parked near the apartment complex. It had a distinct, damaged front bumper. It was him. He was following her. Her mind raced. She couldn't lead him to her home. She started making random turns, taking a long, convoluted route, hoping to lose him. But he stayed right with her. He never sped up, never tried to overtake her, just maintained a constant distance. It felt like he was studying her, learning her route, her habits. The slow, methodical pursuit was even more terrifying than a high-speed chase. Panicked, she spotted a brightly lit 24-hour gas station up ahead. It was her best bet. She pulled in, parking right by the entrance where there were plenty of cameras and people. She immediately called 911, her hands shaking as she explained the situation. While she was on the phone with the dispatcher, she looked up, and there he was. His car was parked on the far side of the lot, away from the lights. He got out and just stood there, staring at her, watching. The minutes felt like hours. Finally, the flashing blue and red lights of a police car appeared in the distance. The moment the man saw the cops approaching, he calmly got back into his car and sped away, disappearing into the night before they could intercept him. The police took her statement, but they never found him. Alyssa quit delivering food at night after that. The experience left a deep mark on her. Even now, she says that sometimes, late at night, she can still see his face in her mind, that blank, empty expression. She can't shake the feeling that he was following her for a reason she'll never know. And the most chilling thought of all is what might have happened if she hadn't been smart enough to drive to the gas station. If she had driven straight home that night, she's certain he would have followed her all the way there. My name is Marcus, and for a while, I delivered for Uber Eats when I was living in Phoenix. It was a decent side hustle, letting me explore different parts of the city I wouldn't normally see. Most nights were uneventful: pick up food, drop it off, repeat. But one night back in 2022, I accepted an order that broke that routine, and it's a delivery I still think about whenever I pass a dark house late at night. The order was for a house in a quiet, residential neighborhood, the kind of place where every lawn is perfectly manicured and the only sound is the hum of air conditioners. Nothing seemed strange at first. The GPS led me through winding suburban streets until I turned onto the customer's street, and that's when I saw her. A woman was standing in the middle of the driveway. It wasn't just unusual, it was unnerving. She wasn't by the front door, ready to grab her food. She wasn't on her phone, scrolling while she waited. She was just standing, dead center in the concrete driveway, facing the street with an unnerving stillness. She didn't move an inch as my headlights washed over her when I pulled up to the curb. It was like she was a statue, a permanent fixture of this otherwise perfect suburban landscape. I've had customers wait outside before, but they usually give a little wave or start walking toward the car. This was different. This was just wrong. Most customers who meet you outside are eager to get their food. They'll wave, step aside, or gesture for you to come closer. But she remained completely, unnaturally still. She had long, dark black hair that hung over one side of her face, obscuring her features in the dim glow of the single streetlight on the block. She was wearing what looked like a thin hospital gown. It was a pale, washed-out color that seemed to almost glow under the orange light, making her stand out against the darkness of the night. The fabric looked flimsy and out of place for a cool Phoenix evening. I felt a prickle of unease, but I had a job to do. I rolled down my window just halfway, a small subconscious act of self-preservation. "Hi," I called out, trying to sound friendly and normal. "I've got your order from Uber Eats." There was no reaction, not a flicker of acknowledgement. It was as if I hadn't spoken at all. She just continued to stand there, a silent sentinel in the driveway. My unease grew into a knot in my stomach. I waited another moment, hoping she'd snap out of whatever trance she was in. But nothing. Deciding I couldn't just sit in my car all night, I grabbed the bag of food from the passenger seat and stepped out. The moment my feet hit the pavement, she finally moved, but not toward me. In a slow, deliberate motion, she turned her head toward the house behind her. It wasn't a casual glance, it was a clear, unmistakable gesture, as if she was signaling for me to follow her inside. The invitation was silent but deafening. My voice was a little shaky when I spoke again. "Ma'am, you live here?" The question hung in the air, met with the same profound silence as before. Still, she gave me nothing. No nod, no word, just that unwavering, silent stare now directed at the house. Her stillness was more frightening than any sudden movement could have been. It felt calculated. My eyes followed her gaze to the house. It was completely dark, except for one dim, sickly yellow light that came from a single window in the back. The rest of the house was a black void, but the most unsettling detail was the front door. It was open just a crack, a dark sliver cutting through the facade of the home, inviting the night inside. A cold, heavy feeling settled deep in my stomach. Every instinct in my body was screaming that this was a trap. I decided right then that I was not going inside that house. I wasn't even going to the front door. I took a few steps forward, just enough to be on the edge of the property, and placed the food bag near the beginning of the driveway. "I'll just leave this right here for you," I said, my voice louder than I intended. "You can grab it whenever you're ready." She didn't even glance down at the food. Instead, her head began to turn again, slowly, mechanically, rotating back toward me. That's when I heard it, a sound from inside the house that made the blood run cold in my veins. It was a whisper, low and raspy, coming from the darkness beyond the cracked open door. It sounded like someone was calling her name, a male voice, low and filled with a chilling impatience. As if summoned by the whisper, she took a slow, deliberate step backward, moving toward the open front door and the darkness that lay beyond. She never took her eyes off me, even as she retreated. It was a haunting, spectral movement, like she was being pulled back into the shadows by an unseen force. I didn't stick around to see anything else. I didn't want to know who was whispering or why that woman was standing in the driveway like a ghost. I spun around, scrambled back into my car, and slammed the door shut. I didn't even bother to buckle up. I threw the car in reverse, tires screeching on the asphalt, and drove straight out of that neighborhood without looking back. The next day, still rattled by the experience, I checked the delivery details in the app. My heart sank when I saw it. The customer had specifically chosen contactless drop-off. They had requested in the notes to leave at the door. That meant they weren't supposed to meet me outside at all. The person I had encountered, the woman in the hospital gown, was never meant to be a part of the delivery. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The whole scenario was a setup, just not for me. About a week later, I got a notification from Uber Eats. The order had been refunded. The reason cited by the customer was that they never received their food. That confirmed my worst fears. The food I left at the edge of the driveway was never picked up by the person who ordered it. So, whoever that woman was, standing silently in the night, she wasn't the customer. And the whispering man waiting inside that dark house definitely wasn't expecting a late-night takeout order. I was just an accidental witness to something I was never meant to see, and I can't help but wonder what would have happened if I had followed her inside.